For anybody who's not currently up to date, they're going to be adding in a new unique item to the game that is effectively going to revolutionize how you play the minion Necromancer. And at first, I was quite a doomsayer. I just didn't get it. I couldn't quite figure out what this was supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I basically just thought it was going to make our gameplay style clunkier and I guess do more damage. But really, after kind of giving this a couple runs, getting all the way up to pit tier 90 and running into the typical issues that you run into with a minion Necromancer, but I'll leave that at the end. I want to give this the appropriate level of hype that it deserves, but this might be like pound for pound, kind of a perfect unique item, you know, except for the bugs on the PTR right now, but those will almost certainly get fixed. Welcome to the Hand of Naz and pure mage skeleton Necromancer. The long and short of how the new unique gloves will work for your build is this. If you sacrifice both your skeletal warriors and your golem, every single one of those that you would have naturally have gotten, you will now get a skeleton mage instead. So that's 4 base warriors and 1 base golem, and then on top of that, if you have a cult dominion on your boots, that's 2 more warriors. Add it all together and you can either be sitting pretty on 12 or 14 skeleton mages. And it turns out that skeleton mages not only do a significantly larger amount of base damage than your warriors, but because we can use the shadow mage, not only can we scale their shadow damage, and while that's not the most important thing on the planet, it is something to speak about. But on top of that, we get a huge damage multiplier from the single addition of the fact that 14 or 12 skeleton mages times 3% damage per mage is a huge multi. Now, the rest of what the gloves are going to do for you are both kind of inconsequential, but also very, very impactful. And this was part of the vision that I didn't quite see. It turns out that your mages teleporting is actually pretty sick until you get to a boss with ads. When the mages get attacked, they're going to teleport out of the way because this is somehow going to keep them alive or something. That's a part of the vision I still don't understand. But the cool part about them teleporting is that they tend to teleport within a short radius of the Necromancer themselves. What this means is that when you're pulling through large packs of monsters in the pit, whereas some warriors would typically get stuck behind, either getting crowd controlled or whatever, when your mages are hit, they will tend to teleport near to you, which tends to be in an area where it's a lot more strategic for your mages to be. Now, this doesn't somehow solve their AI. They don't all of a sudden target the right monsters. And again, against something like a boss that summons ads, which I'll just kind of jump to that footage right here, you go from absolutely trouncing the boss and dumping a ton of damage into them to your minions still just kind of running around and hitting random enemies. They quite literally focus on ads over bosses, and this can lose you out on a ton of DPS and actually ends up costing us this tier 90 dungeon, something that we were absolutely cruising through beforehand. But the last effect of the new gloves is that your skeleton mages will now shoot off shards of damage to enemies within range, about 1 in every 6 attacks. I did a couple different trials of 100 attacks, and over one of them, I got 15 instances of this triggering, and on another one, I only got 11. So that's obviously not nearly high enough. I think this should be occurring every other attack or maybe every third attack for this to really have any impact on your ability to clear out AoE. Now, considering the fact that this is just kind of like a dumbed down version of the Mendeln ring, which does significantly more damage, we are not all of a sudden getting rid of the other unique. And on top of that, we're not looking to scale something other than it. You're going to continue to take generic multipliers that will work both for your mage's base damage and for Mendeln's damage, and them working in concert is how you're going to output the vast majority of what you're doing. But now you understand the unique gloves, let's talk about piloting the build, what my experience was with it, how I'm generally considering it will be built walking into Season 9. Obviously, considering the fact that there's a PTR, tons are going to change here, and hopefully a lot of these bugs and kind of other issues that I have with the build can be addressed. What I wanted to highlight is basically the level of trash of my gear and the aspects I'm using and stuff like that. You can find it all in the planner below to highlight the fact that I think that this build actually has a lot more room to grow and is probably going to start topping out somewhere around where I was initially considering it, which is just below pit tier 100, which based off my calculations seems to be fairly accurate. This was the best amulet I could come up with. It's intelligence, maximum life, and fueled by death. You will notice that the masterwork crits on it are kind of weird. This appears to have 4 masterwork crits on it right now. In the PTR, masterworking is absolutely bananas wild. You can get really, really weird outcomes. And what I basically did was I just reset them until the weird outcomes wouldn't have like actually positively impacted my build. Like, yes, having triple crit on movement speed and corpse tendrils is kind of nice here, but in reality, we're already movement speed capped and the corpse tendrils actually want to have 100% in total. So this was just a little bit of extra armor and a little bit of extra maximum life. Now, luckily on things like mythic items as well as unique items, you're not getting multiple masterwork crits here. So everything else that we have on here is just like completely inconsequential gear that, again, these didn't really impact our outcome. But look at that sick Fueled by Death amulet. Quite literally the best one I could find. The big benefit of building fully into your skeleton mages is that we finally get to use Service and Sacrifice. Service and Sacrifice here is a 3x damage multiplier on a two-handed weapon. That's obviously a pretty insane amount of damage. But not only that, since they actually nerfed Soulrift, it's no longer going to grant us Barrier, and the damage bonus that it grants us is now only 15%. We're finally using Army of the Dead, and because we're using Army of the Dead, that means we get to put Unyielding Commander onto our amulet for another 2.65 times damage multiplier. Add on to your last ring Reanimation for 60%, and this is the strongest minions have ever really hit in comparison to the rest of the game. Keep in mind, there's still a ton of nerfs that came in this season, so while damage numbers are lower, its relative damage scale has gone significantly up. So everything else that you're going to see on the build is pretty typical for this type of build. Air Perdition, be able to figure out crit chance as well as a damage multiplier. If you don't have this, you could throw in Shaco if you have it, and if you don't have that, a legendary helmet, not only with Hardened Bones on it for even more survivability, but for really good utility stats. Shroud of False Death, because that just goes on every single build until they delete this thing from the game, which quite frankly, I think that they should. Blood Moon Breaches, obviously minor and absolutely garbage roll, but there you go, we tossed it on there. This is actually how we're applying Curse at this point in the game. We cannot afford to fit Curse anywhere else on the build because we only have one utility aspect slot, and this is where Occult Dominion needs to go. There's going to be a lot of people arguing to put Occult Dominion up onto your amulet, and it just turns out getting 2 more mages is nowhere near the amount of damage that putting Unyielding Commander onto your build is. It's just not even vaguely close. It is really nice that we're finally using a two-handed scythe on a minion build now. Obviously in Season 7 we've dropped Grandfather, but it's just nice to see it here. I did test out the chance for Skeleton Mage to attack twice to figure out how that worked with how the Hand of Nas will work as well. It does appear as if whenever you double trigger your chance to hit twice, this will also double trigger on the Hand of Nas. And again, Hand of Nas is only triggering once every like 1 to 6 attacks. It doesn't double dip on your Mendeln. It doesn't increase Mendeln's damage at all, and it doesn't trigger Mendeln either. So this is just a nice little way to get slightly better AoE clear out of your mage's base damage and to help scale it in a slightly more meaningful way. But I do think that probably chance for mages to attack twice will end up getting dropped from the build just because it doesn't seem to be as impactful as putting on like 10 ranks or 12 ranks to finality could be, and or just something like Titan's Fall, although that is still bugged in the PTR. The only other thing that you're going to see different from here, just because you have seen my ring in comparison to the planner, is you do need Lucky Hit Chance to be able to apply Vulnerable on your ring as well. I was just messing around with Corpse Tendrils and Bone Prison as my only sources of Vulnerable, and it worked fine. It just didn't have 100% uptime, and putting that single affix onto your ring will make it so that you have no issues at all. Now let's talk about how the build felt for survivability, because this is the place where I was the most blown away. And I guess I'm going to cut back to the boss fight, because there was one point where I was so distraught about the fact that my minions wouldn't actually hit the boss, I kind of just stopped looking at the screen entirely and was just reading my chat. And during that time, not only was I face tanking the boss, but I was also face tanking like the hardest version of Lilith's attack, where she actually does like the swoop 3-prong attack on you and then explodes on top of you. I just didn't die. And then the last thing, I think that these gloves, unironically, are the best unique item they have ever put into Diablo 4. That's pretty wild, considering I was so down on them. But they are transformative. They completely change what your minions do. They are good statted, but not ridiculously statted. They don't have like double damage on them. Heck, they don't even have core stat on them. And they do something completely unique. My only issue is that this also defines the best way to run minions, and you have basically said the warriors are trash and we can't come up with something for them to do, so get rid of them, and the golem doesn't do enough and we can't find a way to make that do something, so get rid of that as well. These do not define an alternative to the minion build, they now define the only way to play the minion build. And with the unique item this interesting and this different, I thought we were finally getting away from every unique has to be run on every build if it says the skill or the effect that your build would like to build into. And it turns out that's just not the case. These things are going to be run on every single build. Say goodbye to the golem and your warriors forever. Oh, And just one last thing. These are bugged. You actually don't get the ranks to Skeleton Mage Mastery from these. It's actually kind of funny. I have, let's look at it right now. I have 8 currently, which is impossible since I have 4 from here and 1 from here. And then when I take off my gloves, I will continue to only have 8. So that's bugged. That's going to get reported. And similarly, Titan's Fall is still not working for minions. So you need to take a point out of something else and then put a point back in so that Titan's Fall will be read for Mendel's damage. If that could get fixed, that would also be great. If you're brand new to the channel and you were excited about my coverage of this build and you want to see more of what we're doing, not only in the PTR, but how we generally cover Diablo 4, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss out on anything. I try to cut out as much cruff as I possibly can. I try to not clickbait you whenever I can make that a possibility. And hopefully you can appreciate the content. If you could click the button, it would help me out a ton. If you like the video, leave a like on it, leave a comment down below as well. Have you tried out anything cool? Found any weird bugs? Are you trying out ridiculous things in the PTR and breaking stuff? Now is the time to talk about it so that we can get that back into the hands of the developers for good feedback, good bug fixing, and hopefully walk into the best version of Season 9 that we possibly can. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I truly, truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.